All right. I don't really have a script for this video, but I just wanted to come on here and give some takes off the dome about Spider-Man. Yes, that's right. Yeah, another video on the internet about Spider-Man. But that's really all I can think about today, and I just wanted to get this stuff off my chest. So, without further ado, here's my Spider-Man video for the day. Well, I've got my Spider-Man mug right here for such occasion, and I got my Easy Gap hoodie, red variant to be specific, if you can't tell. Thought it'd be fun. Um, but yeah, so here's what I want to talk about. Spider-Man doesn't seem to exist anymore. And what I mean by that is obviously not to be like, yes, obviously it's a fictional character, but what I mean is that everywhere I look for Spider-Man content, it seems to be lacking in some primary way. And at a certain point, it seems like the character that we know, that everyone knows and loves, that is called Spider-Man, doesn't really exist in like a unified way. Like if you think of Plato's forms, you know, you have the form of the chair that's out there in the mind of God or something, and then like every chair participates in that sort of unknown thing that gives its essence, right? It feels like the form of Spider-Man is gone. Like it doesn't seem like there is a unified essence anymore to this character. And so what kind of kickstarted that for me was, I don't know. I mean, I think about Spider-Man a lot and unearthing our comics, Matthew and I. And you can watch that video where we talk about our favorite comics on this channel. But I've been going down memory lane in terms of the positive and negative experiences I've had with this character. And yeah, he's my favorite. You know, my big three are Superman, Spider-Man, and Nightwing. And Spider-Man's always been the top dog. And I think for a lot of people, he just strikes a chord in us that's hard to replace, you know? And my opinions have changed a lot. Sometimes I've gone back on some opinions. Sometimes I've stayed true to some opinions. I don't know. What I'm saying is like, I'm sort of lost now as a Spider-Man fan, and we're just going to get into it. But specifically today, what made me want to record this video was that last night I finished volume 1 of Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man, and I know I'm behind, but I don't make much money right now, and I kind of just have to read comics when I can. So here's this trade for you to look at. And, you know, I've been excited to actually dive into this. Matthew gave this to me as a gift, I think, for Christmas or birthday or something. And I've just been sitting on it because I haven't had time or really the care to just like pour my energy into comics in a while. And like I said, I just finished it last night. And I've been excited to read it because Hickman is a really talented writer. And I really want to read his other stuff, like his X-Men arc. I actually binged Comics Explained. How do you even say that? I binged Rob's video on Comic Explained of Hickman's X-Men arc because it was so enthralling. And so it's really cool that he's writing a Spider-Man story that's like contained and not weighed down by the mainline continuity. But I have some thoughts. So basically what happened last night was I finished this, but since it has ended in real time, right? Like this is only the first few issues, but since it ended recently, I've been sort of spoiling the rest of the story for myself with watching multiple people's, you know, review of the story and just trying to keep tabs on what's happening in the comic world now, since I've been sort of in this comic hiatus for a while. And I think that this story had really fresh concepts. I'm gonna be going into some spoilers for this, but it's like this is 2 years old, so I don't, if you don't want to find spoilers, and find some other video. But I just I don't want to be invested in something that's gonna end, and for the concepts that are fresh, that are introduced, to just go nowhere. And that's what I feel like is happening with this story, is that even though there are really cool things about it, don't get me wrong, it's just, when you read comics now, everything that happens in the real world, like the metatextual things that happen, have so much more weight now, I've seen people theorize that like Hickman never intended for this story to be 24 issues, even though he said that publicly. And I don't know. I think there's good reason to not trust what Marvel is saying and what Hickman is saying, because you read these issues and it doesn't seem like there's this impetus to get the ball rolling to end in a final way for issue 24. I just don't see it. And I get that Hickman's writing is a slow burn. That's why I actually like that. I want to support writers, that see themselves as artists and want to craft this epic story that takes, time and energy to digest. I think that's cool. But when I was reading this, I was just like, I'm okay with it being a slow burn, even though it's sort of boring. And there's really good parts. But then when I checked in to see what the rest of the story was about, I was just sort of like, is it really worth getting excited about? Because here's the thing. Marvel is very strange now. You have DC over here, I'm more of a DC fan. If it wasn't for Spider-Man, I wouldn't even really like Marvel that much. I mean, I like Silver Surfer. I like Marvel cosmic characters. I like Marvel stuff, Fantastic Four, whatever. But like DC, and I have my qualms with DC right now. I just don't want to talk about that right now. But what I do want to talk about with DC in comparison to what's happening with Ultimate stuff is that it's like they have this understanding that the absolute universe is a sandbox. And for their mainline stuff, even if it has varied reception, it's still relatively cohesive in its like status quo offering, I guess. Now with Marvel, especially with a character like Spider-Man, it's the reverse. You have like a horrible status quo that no one likes for the mainline books. Like, why is Norman Spider-Man? Why is Mary Jane Venom? Why is Peter Parker with an alien? Like, bro. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg too. The point is, why is Marvel pumping out content in the mainline universe that is really just slop because they refuse to let him move forward as a character? And then it's like their ultimate universe is just basic. It's not the crazy sandbox, like Absolute is. It is a fine, here you go, be happy with this, like what you think you want with Spider-Man offering, right? Here's your married Peter to MJ, and here's a story with them. Okay, are you happy now? Okay, let's end it. And that energy is detestable, It's detestable. Like, and I was catching up on everything last night, staying up really late trying to wrap my head around all this, because from what I've seen, a lot of people love this story, and some people don't really like the ending and feel like it was rushed. But I don't know, it feels like people that consume comics, when they voice their opinions on YouTube, they're just like satisfied, and I don't really like that. I don't like that. When I go and search for people's opinions on comics, it's always this thing where it's like some of them are willing to complain a lot, right? A lot. But then like most people, I think, are just like satisfied buying the book and reading a story if it has good stuff in it. But it's like, dude, when are we going to get to a point where Marvel understands that the way that they operate is intolerable? Like, And part of the reason I say that is because, I don't know, when I started reading comics consistently, specifically Spider-Man, it was like at the end of Superior Spider-Man, because I didn't really grow up getting to buy comics, or like my parents didn't really buy comics for me as a kid. And then when I had a job in high school, I was able to catch up. And so I jumped on with Slott's run, at the end of Superior Spider-Man. And then I kind of worked my way backward from there. But something like triggered me last night, which is I watched this video and they were referencing like what happened in One More Day. And I sort of compartmentalized that, as a Spider-Man fan, as everyone kind of has to. But like seeing those panels again with the dialogue and the art that was happening during One More Day, it's really just offensive when you think about it, because you're having Peter Parker and Mary Jane have a discourse with the devil. As a Christian, it's already annoying to like deal with this crap. But like, think about that. The whole pitch for One More Day was that Peter Parker is trying to sacrifice his own wife to save his aunt. And he's conversing with Satan. Like, I know it's Mephisto and all that, but come on, just be real. And just seeing that, that's the other thing that's demoralizing. It's like seeing a character that I love do something so evil. And it's not nuanced morally. Like all of the characters in that story are telling him to grow up, like death is a part of life. You don't do this. And he still does it. And like, that's the Peter Parker that we've been living with since then, it's just really demoralizing. Like, what does that teach us as readers, as people, really, not just readers, people, like, okay, so not accepting death in a healthy way and sacrificing your family because of it is okay? It's not okay. It's not. So Peter Parker isn't a person you can look up to if you're young, and Peter Parker isn't a person you can relate to if you're older. And he's been in that state since then. And that's not to say that I don't like some of the stories that have arisen out of the ashes of One More Day. I like some things, but again, like, that reminded me that, oh yeah, the Peter Parker that we're reading about right now is the same person that essentially sacrifices family, his wife, who is supposed to be closer to you than your parents or anyone. Like, especially the Bible says, a man leaves his parents and cleaves to his wife. Like, your wife, and if you're a woman, your husband is supposed to be the closest person to you. That's your family, and then it's like your parents are a step below that. The person that we're supposed to look up to in Spider-Man, he sacrificed that to just keep his old aunt alive, And I feel like no one's grandmother or aunt, in real life would want to cause their grandchild or nephew that amount of pain in the first place. At least not like a good woman or good grandpa. I'm not trying to be gender, I'm just like sticking with the what happened with the Spider-Man comic, since it was like his aunt or whatever. My point is, like, this isn't a set of events that anyone, like, I mean, I guess anyone except for editorial thinks is moral, and we're just supposed to accept that, like good consumers. Here's your slop. I don't want Peter Parker to grow, and y'all are stupid for wanting that, so we're going to make him a permanent bachelor and literally make morally reprehensible decisions. Like, that is a morally reprehensible decision to do that. And everyone thinks that, and everyone's always thought that. And Marvel is so prideful that they still won't accept that they made a mistake. It's like, why does the Ultimate Universe even exist, dude? Like, I don't want... It's just so, like, okay, and I guess I'm rambling. I'm not being coherent. Maybe I should have stuck with the script, but The thing is, like, even with the good things that I've read so far in the Ultimate story, I feel like the Renew Your Vows story, like that happened before, was still better, you know, and kind of depicting a more lively vision for what Peter Parker's life would be like, still married to MJ and being Spider-Man. You know, I feel like Hickman is not actually reaching for the stars in the way that he's capable of. Because again, I was like blown away by his vision for some of his other stories. But this one, it feels so weirdly contained. I don't know. Like, I like some of the elements that are going on, like the Mysterio element. Even though I haven't read that, like I said, I'm gonna find a way to finish it. But for now, it's just like I can't not get caught up. I like the Mysterio stuff. I like what he was doing with Harry. Everything else, though, it just feels kind of lame. I guess what I'm saying is that Marvel is not a good company. They're not a good moral company, because like any writers that would think that like what Peter Parker did in One More Day is morally excusable, I just don't trust you, you know? It's not just about like the fact that it was like a FU to the fans. It's the fact that like you went that low to take Spider-Man and make him do something that no human being should ever do, and still say that he's like a good person. So we don't have a good Spider-Man in mainline comics. There's that. All right, place that on the chessboard. Now, when we look to TV shows or movies, do we still see like a good Spider-Man? And I would argue no, because here's the funny thing. A few days ago, Matthew and I, with his girlfriend, watched Far From Home again, you know? And it was sort of like this joke thing, but also just like fun. We just had time to kill, so we wanted to just watch a movie. And so here's my Far From Home copy that Matthew gave me as a gag gift one year, I think for Christmas or a birthday or something, because in my family and my friend group, like I notoriously despise Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Not necessarily even because of Tom Holland, but it's like I'm one of those people that was never on board for the Homecoming trilogy. But like we watched this, and I was honestly surprised by how much I liked it, and like after all this time. And it got me thinking. I was like, okay, I'm so far removed from the initial hurt that I experienced when Homecoming came out, because I thought it was so like, guys, it is not a proper representation of Spider-Man's character. Like, even with the good things, because again, I like things about Homecoming, but it's like, be real, it's not a faithful adaptation of Spider-Man's character. And it's like they proved that with No Way Home, that they didn't really know what they were doing the whole time by killing Aunt May and all that. It's just like, but when I watched this again, which is widely considered to be the worst Spider-Man movie, I kind of had fun with it. Once I was just like able to remove all of the hurt, all of the just like in the moment stuff that you deal with when your expectations are ruined. And I was like, this is a fun movie. It's funny, whatever. I'm having a fun time watching it. I like the MJ and Peter moments in this movie more than I remember, you know? Like, and I do not like the MJ Ned stuff like in these movies for the most part. I'm not really excited for it in Brand New Day. But I liked it in Far From Home. I was like, you know what? I can see what they're trying to do. But it reminded me, I was like, But the only reason I'm really able to enjoy this movie is because I'm already accepting that Spider-Man doesn't exist in the movies. You know what I mean? Like, you have to search for Spider-Man when you watch these movies. You have to search for the diamond in the rough moments where you like, that's Spider-Man. That's Spider-Man. And that happens few and far between, you know, in these MCU Spidey movies. So we don't have a good Spider-Man in comics. We don't have a good Spider-Man in movies. And I know that that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but it's like, again, I just wish that the people that were fans, let me just say this. I'm not even trying to hate that much right now. I'm just kind of just stating a matter of fact. Like it is a matter of fact that like Marvel has fumbled the bag with this character in the movies. Like it just is what it is. Like even with the good parts of the Holland movies, as a whole, they do not represent Spider-Man in a faithful way. Just be honest. Like, it's okay if you like the movies. I'm not even hating on it. Like, I don't care that much anymore about, like, if you like them, like, sure, like, that's fine. Like, let's be friends. Let's talk Spider-Man. I'm not even trying to, like, be a jerk or anything. Like, I just don't care anymore. Like, my point with all this is that he's not in the movies in a good way, and he's not in the comics in a good way. Now let's talk TV shows. I think that Spectacular Spider-Man is still like the most faithful adaptation in a cartoon form of Spider-Man's character. And I was watching this video just now before recording this video, and I'll try and like shout out the channel in my edit of this video, but because I don't remember, it's a channel that I just found. It's a small channel. But they're talking about how, like, why did Marvel not capitalize on the MCU's momentum to infuse their comics with, like, the same energy? And what this guy was talking about was, like, when he was a kid, he loved Batman the Animated Series. And you could go to the comic book store during that show. Oh, what do you know? On the rack, there's a comic version of that show, you know, and there's like the Adventures of Superman stuff that was happening too. I actually have a trade of that and I need to find it. But the point is, like, okay, the movies that Marvel has made have pulled from like the best of what Marvel writers have done in the past. But now it's like the status quo is so bad. It's like, what are the movies going to look like in the future? Especially since that Marvel actually didn't take the time to like make a continuity, like an MCU continuity comic installment, like filling in gaps between movies and stuff, you know? And it got me thinking about Spectacular Spider-Man and how like that's really one of the only adaptations of Spider-Man I'm like fully satisfied with. And I was like, wait a minute. It would be so cool if we could get like a Spectacular Spider-Man comic where you hire the people that were originally part of the show to write what they wanted to write for the cartoon. Because anyone that has done the research about that show knows that the writers, like, they plotted everything out. Everything. And they had a huge vision for how the show was going to progress before it was canceled. Thanks to the whole Disney stuff, you know? So I was like, dang, it'd be so cool if we had like a Spectacular Spider-Man comic, dude. Like, maybe that's where my happy place is, because I'm not getting Spider-Man in a satisfying way in the mainline comics. And, you know, I think the Spider-Man in the Ultimate Comics is just, I don't know, it's a mixed bag discussion. Like, it's just because there are good things, it doesn't mean that it's ideal. And then, like, the movies are just not that satisfying to me. So maybe it would be awesome to have a Spectacular Spider-Man story where I can just like pretend that one of my favorite Spider-Man stuff adaptations still exists. But yeah, I'm just so tired. I'm like jaded. I had this brief energetic spike when I was like sorting through my comics about like, oh man, I would love to get back into comics, but I poked around right now and it seems like, oh, things still suck pretty badly. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all, like, you know, I have my masterwork trades. I might just dive back into these, the OG stuff, just to like escape, you know. I love this copy. I had to get this. It's just so sick. Collecting the Ditko run. Here's my Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 1 copies, if y'all can see that. I love Amazing Spider-Man 2. I defend it. I don't care what anyone says. And yeah, here's some of the trades that like I have just on hand right now. Renew Your Vows. I might reread this since I just finished Ultimate Spider-Man. Why is it not focusing, dude? Yeah, I might reread Renew Your Vows. Because I just remember liking this more than I was liking reading Ultimate Spider-Man. Yeah, here's Big Time. Here's an example of like a run that I actually do like post One More Day. Might reread that. I don't know. And yeah, here's trade for Nick Spencer's recent run. And I was actually liking some of the Nick Spencer stuff. But that's the thing is like Nick Spencer was teasing MJ and Peter getting back together. And he was sort of teasing the retconning of One More Day, like going back on that decision, which was hype. Let's be honest. People wanted that to happen. But Marvel still did not let it happen. Here's some issues that I had on hand since we did our like favorite comics thing. Like I have my issue 1 of, you know, the post Superior Spider-Man. Here's one of like the first Spider-Man comics I ever owned. It's just a reprinting of, you know, when Doc Ock was introduced in Ditko's run. You know, here's Peter popping the big question to MJ, you know. It's cool. And then I have a copy of the issue from Big Time. Here's Superior Spider-Man, Original Sin, Spider-Verse, Renew Your Vows, first printing. I think this is the A cover. But yeah, like, oh man, it's just like, what even is this character anymore? And let's talk about Spider-Verse for a second. Like, I might get a lot of hate for this, but I just think it's symptomatic of the bigger issue that I'm talking about, you know? And I liked Spider-Verse, actually. But I was thinking about how much, like, real-world metatextual stuff affects all these stories when I was thinking about, like, how Miles Morales was crafted. I should explain where I'm at. I'm kind of rambling. Basically, someone that I was watching was talking about how it's kind of silly that the OG Ultimate Spider-Man ended the way it did with them killing Peter because they just didn't know what else to do. And then it's like this new one just did the same thing, but like a speed run of that, you know? And that's lame to me, you know? And it's also lame, like how Miles was introduced, you know? It's like because their sales were plummeting, you know, or not plummeting, but just it wasn't satisfying what they had in mind for like when they started the Ultimate Spider-Man series by Bendis. And so it was like there's an economic factor for the reason Miles was introduced, and then also it was like Bendis has literally said that one of the reasons that he made Miles Morales like mixed race was because Obama literally was the sitting president. And then like the artist or something talked about like how they chose Morales because it was like that was his name or something. And he wanted his kid to see themselves in Spider-Man. So it's like, again, like it doesn't feel like Peter Parker as a character is treated with respect. You know, it's like, think about it. You know, you have the main line totally ruining his character. Beyond redemption, really, it seems like that. Because of One More Day. You have the Ultimate Spider-Man comic kill him just to introduce Miles Morales. Then you have Spider-Verse happening in real life with the Spider-Verse movies being sort of like, bro, it just, why can't we have just like a consistent Peter Parker centric, positive, enthralling story? Is that so hard? We have so many writers, you know, step up to the plate. and they never deliver. Instead, you have to be satisfied with Miles or Spider-Gwen or any. There's a Spider-Man for everyone. It's like, yeah, but there's no central Spider-Man. Why are we given so many peripheral offerings for this Spider franchise? But like Peter Parker, the center of it all, is like not satisfying as a character or any of his stories. Like, I'm being like slightly hyperbolic when I say all that, because again, I like some of the stories I just showed you, and I like Spider-Verse. I guess I like Spider-Gwen. But yeah, I'm just at like this sort of I'm just feeling really jaded, dude. I really wanted to get back into comics again. And when I get a new job, I'm wanting to start spending some money on comics, because like I've lived in a place for a while now that doesn't have a comic book shop, and that's part of the reason I had to do this hiatus. But I think soon enough I'll be living somewhere that actually does have a shop. And it's like I want to be excited to read Spider-Man, but I can't be. So I'm probably going to read mainly DC books, you know. That's how it's always been too. Like, I just love DC. Although I can make a whole separate video on my problems with DC right now, but I don't know. Like, does anyone feel that way? Like that like Spider-Man doesn't exist anymore, despite like the heavy influx of so many different Spider-Man things? It just feels like every single side of this like multifaceted like diamond or whatever that Spider-Man is lackluster. When are we going to get a like actually good Spider-Man story? And again, I'm not even trying to hate on Ultimate Spider-Man. It's just like it doesn't feel like it matters, you know? Until Marvel decides to pull the plug on whatever crap they're doing right now, because it's crap, and actually like go back on their decision for one more day, I think that will be the day that it will be fine, maybe, to buy Spider-Man comics again. But like until then, it just feels like this rat race of just like this constant hamster wheel that literally amounts to nothing. Like, I don't want to see Peter Parker making horrible life choices that it's like there's no reason behind these negative things, you know? And I don't want to see Mary Jane, like, I don't even want to say the word, but you know what I'm thinking, you know? It's just these people have no respect for like decency or good writing or the character. And it's just a shame. Like, I don't even know if this video would be seen by anyone that works at Marvel, but it's like, you just know that that's how people look at you guys. Like, and if y'all are still doing this, you know, it just means that you don't have any respect for the consumer. I'm not even hating that much on the writers, because it's like they are given a strict sort of boundary to write in, and they can only do so much with that. You know, it's editorial. Like, why are you guys the way that you are? And it's like, think about it, guys. I just said that I plan to like get back into comics when I have some of my money back up, you know? But I'm not going to buy them. Get that through your skulls. Like, y'all are trying to like maintain the ship, but like, don't you realize you could easily be making more money if you just do things differently? And it has been that way for a long time. That's the thing that I don't understand. Like, there are so many people that could easily get into comics and give you money. Like, I just don't understand how the business side works to this. Like, bro, it's just like making me depressed. Like, I don't want to abandon my favorite character. Yeah, let me know what y'all think. Do y'all agree with any of that? Am I tripping? I don't think I'm tripping that hard, but Yeah, it's like Spider-Man used to mean something to me, and now really what it means is stagnation. That's what hurts. That's what hurts. And I don't want to be stagnant in my life, you know? I don't think anyone wants to be stagnant. So why is our favorite character stagnant? Why is our favorite character someone that we can't identify with? And when I say that, I don't even mean like you have to be struggling to identify with Peter Parker. Like, that's just so stupid. Like, it's his decisions, man. It's like his personality. You know, we don't have to have him suffering all the time, but we don't have to, like, I don't look up to someone or want to be friends with people that like behave the way he does, you know? And I know that like all these things are not for like this larger plan to like critique his actions. Like it's because like these people that write Spider-Man, and again, I don't even really want to hate on the writers that much. It's just like the people that are in control, let's just say that, with this character and how he's represented, I feel like I don't have much in common with them from a worldview perspective. And that's just bizarre because it's like we're talking about a superhero. Whatever, man. So, do you like Ultimate Spider-Man? What's something that I can read that might get my hopes back up? Should I just read Renew Your Vows again? Should I read Renew Your Vows again? His thumbnail. I just want to have fun again with my favorite superhero. Is that so much to ask, Marvel? All right, see y'all.